everyone, I am Priyanka Wilson and welcome to GSS course series of decoding the UPSC syllabus with macro topic detailing. As all of you know that the UPSC syllabus of history, which is the part of GS paper 1, is very vast and it needs to be broken down first before you start studying history. So in this series of decoding the syllabus with macro topic detailing, Rashid sir will decode the syllabus of modern India history. This is the first part of history syllabus decoding, followed by 3 other videos. So guys, please stay tuned, and if you like this video, so please like and share and subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon for regular updates. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Rashid and today we'll discuss the syllabus of history, especially modern India, for general studies. At the same time, we'll also take some questions related to prelims as well as mains examination to have clarity about the syllabus, the trend which is being followed by UPSC examination. The first topic that is mentioned under modern Indian history is history of modern India from about the middle of the 18th century until the present. And the main topics mentioned within that is significant events, personalities and issues. Clear? Now, events like Battle of Plassey, events like Battle of Buxar, events like Anglo-Maratha Wars, Anglo-Sikh Wars, events like famine, all these are major events. Personalities including major governor generals like Lord Dalhousie, Governor Generals like Lord William Bentinck. At the same time, personalities like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chand Vidyasagar. At the same other personality issues like drain of wealth, economic impoverishment, administrative issues. All these things are to be covered right from the middle of the 18th century till the present times. Till the present means till the present times, because history syllabus even includes post-independent era as well. Now, with these we'll understand from where to start and how to continue. The history from the middle of the 18th century basically means British conquest of Bengal. British came to India as mere traders and they established a corporation known as the British East India Company. But apart from trade, they also began to acquire political power in India. And this started with Battle of Plassey when British defeated the forces of Bengal through trickery and betrayal. Thereafter, British began to extract resources from Bengal. Bengal thereafter turned out to be an impoverished province that led to several developments and issues in Bengal. Okay. At the same time, with Battle of Plassey, we want to discuss Battle of Buxar. Against British, 3 Indian powers fought in the battlefield of Buxar in 1764. British went on to conquer the province of Marathas, Mysore and the northwestern province of Punjab as well. By the middle of the 19th century, the whole process of conquest and aggression was completed. Still large areas were left to be conquered, which were being ruled by native princes of India termed as the princely states. Okay? Meanwhile, at the same time when all these conquests were going on, British promoted certain administrative system to ensure proper law and order for maximization of profit, whereby they began to enact all laws like the Regulating Act of 1773, the Pitt's India Act of 1784 and the Charter Act starting from 1793 till the year 1833, as Charter Acts were reviewed after every 20 years. British even followed the definite economic policy of extracting maximum resources out of India, and therefore they drafted land revenue settlements like the Permanent Settlement, the Rayotwari Settlement and the Malwari settlements. Clear? Due to rigid collection of land revenue, peasants began to lose their ownership rights, and that led to the emergence of landless peasants in India. On economic front, British began to take away India's resources unilaterally to Britain. That resulted into the concept of drain of wealth, and this theory was first highlighted by India's first economic thinker, Dadabhai Naoroji. Associated with agriculture, British went on to have concept of commercialization of agriculture, whereby cash crops like cotton and indigo began to be cultivated under the guidance of the British, and that resulted into huge profitability of the British authority in India. All this resulted into lack of food grains, and lack of food grains resulted into famines and poverty in rural areas, landless classes in India. Deindustrialization also took place because the existing cottage industries got declined as British began to promote large factories to promote their commercial profit in India. All these were major issues and developments that took place on administrative and economic front. Other major issue was dislocation of indigenous education, and British began to promote Western education, not primarily to develop India, but primarily to have large cadre of lower officers in India who could work on lower wages, just to economize on British administration in India. All these developments took place, and we need to cover all these areas elaborately. Questions are asked from all these areas, both in prelims and mains examination. We'll look into some major questions from prelims as well as mains examination asked from this broad topic. Clear? We'll look into this area. First is Conquest of Bengal. The staple commodities exported by the English East India Company from Bengal in the middle of the 18th century were raw cotton, oil seeds and opium. Second option being sugar, salt, zinc and lead, copper, silver, gold, spices and tea, cotton, silk, saltpeter and opium. Just think that what could be the possible answer when British came to India and began to trade with the province of Bengal. I'll give you just few seconds to think about this question. Now, we'll move on to discuss the possible answer of this topic. The correct option is D. The D means basically that cotton, silk, saltpeter and opium. Now we'll go to the explanation as well. The East India Company was originally formed in Britain for pursuing trade with East Indies and Southeast Asia. In fact, it ended up trading mainly with the Indian subcontinent and China, where the main items of trade were cotton, silk, tea, opium and saltpeter. British Indian territory was developed as a source of foodstuff and raw material for Britain, which fueled rapid economic growth in the manufacturing sector, crucial to the emergence of powerful capitalist economy. Meaning thereby that at this platform of GSS score, you will be given elaborate explanation also, not only questions, not only answer, so as to have a comprehensive understanding of topic, even through questions and answers as well. Moving on to the next important question from mains perspective in general studies on British economic policy, because off and on we get questions from economic policy, because major impact of British rule was felt in economic sphere. Examine critically the various facets of economic policies of British India from middle 18th century till independence. Here I have to discuss about land revenue settlements, that is the permanent Raotwari and Mahalwari settlements, commercialization of agriculture, then drain of wealth from India to Britain, then deindustrialization, rise of landless laborers and peasants at this time, and occurrence of recurrent famine and poverty. All these issues are to be discussed that was followed by British from the middle of 18th century till India became independent by the middle of the 20th century. Clear? We'll be providing model answers even for mains questions as well, so that not only in prelims but even in mains you can understand what approach and content has to be followed while writing answers for mains examination. Moving on to the next major topic that has been asked in prelims examination related to British administration. In the context of Indian history, the principle of diarchy refers to division of central legislature into two houses, introduction of double government, central and state governments having two sets of rulers, one in London, another in Delhi, and division of the subjects delegated to the provinces into two categories. I'll give you a few seconds again to think over this question. Now, we'll move on to discuss the answer. Clear. Correct option is D, and D means again division of the subjects delegated to the provinces into two categories, that is transferred category and the reserved category. Clear? Reserved category laws could be made only by Governor General's Executive Council. Transferred category, the laws could be made on those subjects by popularly elected ministers through general election. Clear? Now, diarchy, also spelled diarchy system of government, introduced by Government of India Act 1919 for the provinces of British India. It marked the first introduction of the democratic principle into the executive branch of the British administration of India. Under this act, the provincial subjects were divided into two categories named as transferred and reserved. The main purpose of the introduction of diarchy in India was the separation of executive departments of each provincial council into authoritarian and commonly responsible sections. So you get elaborate answers even in prelims examination, so as to have clear-cut understanding. Now we'll move on to the next major topic, social and religious reform movement, and one prominent question that has already been asked in preliminary examination. Which of the following led to the introduction of English education in India? Charter Act of 1813, General Committee on Public Instruction, Orientalist and Anglicist controversy. Select the answer using the code below. Again, I'll give you a few seconds to just think over this question. Now, we'll move on to discuss the answer. Answer is D, that is all the 1, 2 and 3. The Charter Act of 1830 adopted a provision to spend 1 lakh rupees per annum for the spread of education in India. The contemporary British scholars were divided 2 groups on the issue of development of education in India. One group called the Orientalists advocated promotion of Oriental subjects through Indian languages. The other group called Anglicists argued the cause of Western science and literature in the medium of English language. And in 1829, after assuming the office of the Governor of India, Lord William Bentinck emphasized on the medium of English language in Indian education. 5 members, including the chairman of the committee, Lord Macaulay, were in favor of adopting English as medium of public instruction, whereas the other 5 in favor of Oriental languages. So all these developments ultimately resulted in introduction of Western education through the medium of English language in India. Now we'll move on to discuss the freedom struggle. Clear? So apart from the first topic, that is the development under British East India Company, now we'll move on to discuss about India's struggle for freedom that started after the mighty revolt of 1857. We'll come to that topic also, so that we can understand that how India's freedom struggle shaped in course of time, that ultimately resulted to India's independence by the middle of the 20th century. As per our syllabus, the topics mentioned are freedom struggle, its various stages. Various stages means starting from the formation of Indian National Congress in 1885, then the moderate phase, extremist phase, then at the same time the Gandhian phase, and after Gandhian phase, finally India's independence. In between, we have to discuss about important movements like the Swadeshi movement, the Home Rule agitation, the non-cooperation movement, the civil disobedience movement, the Quit India movement. Now, important contributors and contributions from different parts of the country. Clear? So, important contributors. The contributors include, first of all, A.O. Hume, who gave the complete idea of establishment of Indian National Congress. Then moderate leaders like Dadabhai Naoroji, extremist leaders like Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and finally leaders like Annie Besant also, who came from Ireland. At the same time, the most important contributor being Mahatma Gandhi, supported by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Jawaharlal Nehru. Contributors were even revolutionaries like Chandrasekhar Azad and Sardar Bhagat Singh, who gave a radical tone to Indian national movement. Even present leaders proved to be very important contributors. At the same time, the working class agitation, the socialist leaders, again Jawaharlal Nehru played important role. And major parts of the country also contributed significantly, especially the regions of Bengal, which was very proactive. At the same time, United Province, Punjab, even the province of Madras, where C. Rajagopalachari played an important role. All these contributors and contributions from different parts of the country ultimately led to India's independence in 1947. At the same time, before the start of national movement, the major development that took place in India was the revolt of 1857, whereby leaders in the northern and central part of India revolted against the British, against the policies, especially economic policy. Explain how the uprising of 1857 constitutes an important watershed in the evolution of British policies towards colonial India. Yeah, it marked a major watershed because the reason is, after the mighty revolt of 1857 only, the British authority enacted the comprehensive legislation known as the Government of India Act 1858. And as per the provisions of Government of India Act 1858, the rule of British East India Company was abolished and India was placed directly under the rule of British Crown in London. And British Crown began to look after Indian affairs through his own representative in India designated as Viceroy. And thereafter, British adopted a policy of conservative approach in order to prevent the occurrence of any revolt like the revolt of 1857. So certain rights began to be granted to the people and leaders of India so that they remain to be contended, so that mighty revolt like revolt of 1857 may not occur in coming time and prestige of British Crown could be maintained over Indian territory. Clear? Next is that we need to understand about some questions asked in preliminary and mains examination related to national movement. First is, which one of the following is a very significant aspect of Champaran Satyagraha? Active all India participation of lawyers, students and women in national movement. Active involvement of Dalit and tribal communities of India in national movement. Joining of peasant to India's national movement. Drastic decrease in the cultivation of plantation crops and commercial crops. Just we'll pause for some time. Look into the options of this question. Very important from preliminary perspective. Now, we'll move on to discuss the answer. Clear. Answer is C. Answer is C. What does C indicate? Joining of peasant unrest to India's national movement, because basically Champaran Satyagraha was a peasant movement and peasant issues were highlighted by Mahatma Gandhi. It was India's first civil disobedience movement. It was launched by Mahatma Gandhi to protest against the injustice meted out to tenant farmers in Champaran district of Bihar. It is widely regarded as the place where Gandhi made his first experiment Satyagraha and then replicated them elsewhere. Therefore, peasants began to get mobilized in course of time. After Champaran only, another peasant issue highlighted by Mahatma Gandhi was at Kheda in Gujarat, where peasants from different parts of India began to recognize the Mahatma Gandhi as the true leader. So Mahatma Gandhi's popular appeal got manifested in the regions of Champaran and Kheda. Next is, we'll discuss with reference to cabinet mission, which of the following statement is or correct? It recommended a federal government, it enlarged the powers of the Indian courts, it provided for more Indians in the ICS. Clear? Just we'll pause and look into the options of this question. Now we'll discuss the answer. Answer is A. What does A indicate? It recommended a federal form of government. According to the proposals of the cabinet mission announced, the country could have a federal government consisting of Indian provinces and princely states. Members of the mission, Lord Patrick Lawrence, Stafford Cripps and A.V. Alexander. Objectives: to obtain agreement with the Indian leaders as to the framing of constitution for India, because now they made up their mind to liberate India after Second World War. Cabinet mission came to India in 1946. To formulate a constitution-making body, the Constitutional Assembly of India, to establish an executive council with the support of major Indian parties including the National Congress and All India Muslim League. So all these informations are given along with question to you so as to have comprehensive understanding. Next is, discuss the role of women in the freedom struggle, especially during the Gandhian phase. Yeah, we get questions like this. Participation of women in Indian national movement. During the Gandhian phase, several women participated actively in the course of national movement. First of all, Annie Besant, an Irish lady who contributed significantly towards Home Rule and thereafter even supported Gandhian agitation in India. Another very prominent woman to participate in Gandhian agitation was Sarojini Naidu, who played an important role in the civil disobedience movement of Mahatma Gandhi. During when Mahatma Gandhi launched the Quit India movement, a very prominent lady, Aruna Asaf Ali, hoisted the tricolor flag of India to start this movement when all prominent leaders had been arrested by the British. Moreover, when civil disobedience movement had been launched, a lady named as Rani Gedeliu led an agitation in the present state of Nagaland, which was at that time Manipur, and it proved to be a very important development. So large-scale participation of women made national movement highly popular in India, and this popularity gave a root shock to British prestige in India as well as in London. Okay. Next question is, why did the moderates fail to carry conviction with the nation about the proclaimed ideology and political goals by the end of the 19th century? Yeah, moderates were basically leaders who started the international movement after formation of Congress in 1885. What were the programs of moderates? Moderates basically wanted only constitutional agitation confined within the four walls of law, and they never demanded any drastic thing from British. They only wanted that Indians should be given chance to participate in British administration. Indians should be given representation in Indian civil services. At the same time, Indians should be allowed to promote their rights in India. So all these were moderate demands promoted through moderate ideology, therefore they are termed as moderates. But why they failed to carry conviction with the nation after the proclaimed ideology and political goals by the end of 19th century? The reason was by the end of 19th century, British began to adopt radical measures against the national movement in India. And this got greatly manifested when British decided to divide Indian people along religious lines in the beginning of the 20th century. British decided to divide the province of Bengal along religious lines into eastern and western half, as eastern part of Bengal had majority of Muslim population, western part of Bengal had majority of Hindu population. And therefore, by this time, moderates realized that their role is being questioned and scrutinized. And that is why by the end of 19th century and in the beginning of 20th century, another group of leaders emerged whose credibility began to be highlighted by masses as well. And these leaders were extremist leaders led by Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Bipin Chandra Pal and Lala Lajpat Rai. And they advocated mass agitation against British policies, which was largely supported by people in India. That is why by the end of 19th century and the beginning of 20th century, moderates failed to carry conviction with the nation about the proclaimed ideology and political goals against British rule. These are some questions asked from national movement. Again, clear? After national movement, when we'll cover all these things, we'll move on to the next topic of modern India, that is post-independent era after 1947. The topic mentioned in our syllabus is consolidation and reorganization within the country. Now, what do we mean by the word consolidation? What do we mean by reorganization? We have to understand consolidation in terms of polity, consolidation in terms of economy, consolidation in terms of society. Clear? And reorganization in the same format. Clear? Politically speaking, why consolidation is important? The reason being, when India became independent in 1947, it was broadly divided into two categories, that is British India and at the same time large number of independent states or princely states ruled by native rulers. So real challenge was to integrate more than 550 princely states into Indian Union, without which Union would have been meaningless. This task was undertaken by independent India's first Home Minister, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, who through the policy of persuasion cum pressure began to unify all those princely states and integrated them with Indian Union. And the challenges were largely faced in the states of Kashmir, Junagadh, Hyderabad, but all these states got integrated perfectly into Indian Union due to the diplomacy and strategy of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. In this way, political India got consolidated in post-independent era. Politically speaking, how India got reorganized. Clear? After India's independence, demand began to be raised by different people to reorganize states for administrative convenience. This demand was first raised by Telugu-speaking people in South India who demanded reorganization of states on linguistic criteria. After several committees failed, finally, Indian government created the first linguistic state in the form of Andhra Pradesh in 1953. Thereafter, India began to reorganize states on linguistic criteria. In 1960, province of Bombay was bifurcated to create two linguistic states of Maharashtra and Gujarat. Clear? This phenomena continued and therefore reorganization started in post-independent era. But recently reorganization was done not only in linguistic criteria but on socio-economic considerations to ensure balanced economic development. This was on political front. Economically, I'll let you know, clear, India also decided to go for consolidation and reorganization. In order to focus consolidated growth and development, an era of economic planning was started by Jawaharlal Nehru with establishment of the Planning Commission of India. And this Planning Commission began to formulate 5-year plans since 1951 that led to economic growth and consolidation. Economic reorganization was largely done or promoted in terms of land reforms. When India became independent, land was largely confined to the big landlords and zamindars. In order to ensure proper distribution of land in favor of landless peasantry class, several legislations related to Ceilings Act were passed by Indian Parliament. But at the same time, voluntary measures were also adopted to ensure land reforms in India, and this was undertaken by Gandhian philosopher Acharya Vinoba Bhave, who started voluntary movement known as the Bhudan and the Gramdan movement, whereby he requested big landlord to surrender certain parts of the land in favor of landless peasantry class to reorganize land in favor of Indian peasantry class. This was on economic front. As far as social front is concerned, consolidation got started and reorganization as well. Consolidation, whereby it was decided to promote equality on religious front to different provisions of Indian constitution. But at the same time, reorganization started when Dalit consciousness was promoted by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and Dalit consciousness resulted into Dalit education in different parts of India, and Dalit began to be given separate status as well as separate treatment in India through different legislations. Reorganization also began to take place with regard to backward classes when the first backward commission was established under the chairmanship of B.P. Mandal during Janta regime, and that ultimately resulted into issue of reservation for OBCs by the end of the 20th century. So we need to understand consolidation, reorganization within India on different fronts like political, economic and social. We'll look into some prominent questions asked from this topic in our examination. Clear? Critically examine the compulsions which prompted India to play a decisive role in the emergence of Bangladesh. Very prominent thing, I'll let you know. Clear? Why India played an important role to create Bangladesh, which was initially known as East Pakistan, and this was largely done by India's Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. When Indira Gandhi became Prime Minister in post-independent era, she faced a very important challenge from two neighboring countries, that is Pakistan and China. And Pakistan and China made a very dubious plan to affect India's territorial integrity. Pakistan and China decided to cover basically chicken snake area that connected Sikkim with Indian territory. Clear? And they wanted to take away Sikkim and to integrate Sikkim with Tibet. This was not acceptable to India, as it could have affected India's territorial integrity. That is why before China and Pakistan could succeed in this plan, Indira Gandhi, with support of Awami League in East Pakistan, declared war against Pakistan in 1971, and that resulted in liberation of East Pakistan under Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the leader of Awami League, and Bangladesh got created. And at the same time, the sinister plan of China and Pakistan was checked, and Sikkim was also integrated within Indian Union. Just to safeguard India on its eastern corner, Indira Gandhi had to play a major decisive role in creating Bangladesh in 1971. This is one prominent question asked in the previous year. Clear? In the previous year. Okay? Now we look into, we have discussed all these developments related to post-independent era. These are major topics to be covered in post-independent era. So modern Indian history from general studies perspective, will be covering it elaborately for both preliminary and mains examination. At the same time, all these things will help you to get mastery over the subject, because in paper 1, history section alone has 65% of the weightage apart from society and geography. And if you prepare these topics well, you can score very well in paper 1 of general studies in mains examination, as well as you can easily handle 15 to 20 questions asked in preliminary examination out of 100 questions from history section. Thank you and all the best.